It's a 2000 Integra Type R. This is one belongs to Gabriel. I'll put a picture or a screenshot of his Instagram. He knows you're driving it, right?
Who?
Yeah. Oh, what's that guy?
I was gonna fly home, but you know what?
Take this.
I might just fly home in this.
So this car went far from smooth. It was originally here just to install GripTec pulleys and put it back together. However, it had belt issues. This is at a continuing problem, and we had to fix all these issues. So many problems. We had to retrofit so much. We put so much hours in. This is kind of an OG supercharged car that's had problems. Throws belts. I think he's had it put together 2 or 3 times and tuned. He's ordered the LHT GripTec pulleys. Basically what we're going to do is pull this kit off and show you how the spacing should be, which is usually the biggest issue, and then we're going to put our pulleys on it and then go over the tune. But that's going to be the biggest issue. Also these long intakes are not really good for the supercharger, even though it is pulling cooler air down there. So this is all jacked up right here. That's not the bracket. That's not supposed to be like that. That is actually a spare bracket for the blower. That would bolt to the blower, and it would have the support bar on there, which that's the support bar right there. It was on but loose. This has washers and spacers. It's been chewing belts up. The belt was half off when we actually got it. Kind of hard to see. It's real tight in here, but that bracket there, you can kind of see a gap in there. That isn't supposed to have a gap. It's supposed to be butted up against that bracket. It's supposed to swivel in there. That's the tension part. We're going to take all this off and probably remake that bracket. I think we have the measurements for it, and go over the spacer. And probably the alternator has to be fixed to that bottom bracket. You see the shiny one down there? That's an aftermarket bracket. I think it's that 1320 stuff, which I usually take off and send back with a customer. But it's all he has. But we're going to take that off, remount the alternator, and then start with this bracketry up here. Got the weirdest sealant. It has that stuff on it, and there was like a jelly on there too.
Oh, it looked like paint. Like this just got painted.
It's very bizarre. We're going to take that pulley off. This pulley was on the crank. This is an aluminum crank pulley. That's a big no-no. You don't want to run these on your B motor. There is no harmonic balancer in there. You have vibrations in there. Without the proper harmonic balancer with some kind of isolator, you do break the oil pump. He brought us this. This is a B16A or ITR crank pulley. This is the one that we use with our kit for the 3.7. Look how loose that is. It's the wrong size bolt. That's an 8mm bolt. Should be a 10. That's one of the main parts to control that alternator. See, another reason why I like the Jackson bracket over that little sheet metal one is as you tighten it, it has the spacer that tightens up against the alternator, where this one doesn't. It's just wobbly. It's nice to see how our packing arrives. Look, you got a free koozie in every object. Let's make sure that he gets that one back. This is the upper bracket right here. If any of you guys have dealt with this, you know that this is wrong immediately. So there is actually a, let's say somebody's put a washer in there. Look at that. There isn't supposed to be a washer in there. That is supposed to be flat on there. This bolts to your upper alternator bracket right here. And it was critical to make sure that was bolted correctly. There is 2 different length studs. These are just, you've seen it on my videos. We've shown you this before. Anyway, we're going to take this apart and replace this hardware. This stuff is just awful. It's like you shouldn't even, if you don't know how to work on these things, don't even touch them. Don't just start jacking things up and putting washers all over the place. That just irks me. It was really clear in the instructions. If you saw the original Jackson manual, very, very clear. People still screwed it up. I mean, the pulleys weren't the best, but the bracketry worked. You just have to pay attention how it worked. This has the unique texture, and of course it's designed to give the blower maximum speed without overspinning it. So both diameters are larger. A lot of time people would put the tiniest pulley that they can on there, and all it would do is create slippage. So let's get these installed. We got the 10mm bolt in here for the alternator. It did have an 8 in there. That's the wrong one. Now it has a 10. one of the critical parts is to make sure this alternator is tight. The alternator swings like this. It can't do this. As you see, it's being jacked up. The pulley's being loose and it's walled out, that key. Neighbor Johnny's putting the alternator together. He's now our new alternator guy. So if you have an alternator problem, John can do that. Put new studs in this, Loctited that, put the correct size washer around it. Used flanged bolts right here that are 12s. That's another thing. When you're used to working on Hondas, you hate dealing with this stuff that's 13 and 15. You like the Honda stuff that's 10, 12, 14, 17, you know. So there we are. We have a flanged head bolt right there. I retapped all this. Everything works right. This works correctly now. This is like a flame cut bracket. Again, it's kind of a jacked up bracket, but we're trying to make it work. This shape here looks like somebody was going to try and machine that out because it's supposed to have a slot in here so you could get to this adjusting bolt. Should be fine, but now this adjuster works properly. There's no spacing. Once it's done, we lock those bolts down. I can put this on the bracket, and then we're going to start spacing that alternator correctly. We're going to have to make a new bracket for that, but then... Oh,
Don't do that.
yeah. Lose that. If that was a 10, we'd never see it again. This can go on over here. I'm not going to be able to do it through the camera and show you, but I'll lock it down and show you what it looks like. This was on the top as a bracket, and this is basically the same bracket as what should be on the blower. There's one on there already for the support bar. This. It's one of those. I don't know why they ended up with two, but that's what that is. It's not supposed to be on there. We're going to remake this out of some 3/8 stainless, and that way it's going to hold that top bracket. That is much better right there. The lower bracket is still the wrong one. It's the 1320 bracket, so that is one of the critical parts about the spacing of the alternator, but that, see that much larger bracket, that is holding everything in line now. Everything is as straight as we can get it. We just need the upper pulley to go on here. Then we can verify the lengths of those belts. This is something that was missing. Interesting to see how many things are either loose or missing. The LHT GripTec pulley is on there. I think I showed you it on the alternator. There it is. This is ready to put back on. We put a new fitting in here. There was no fitting in there. The PCV was hooked up to the pressure side of the manifold, which isn't the correct way. We'll put a new bolt in here. I don't think it was leaking, but obviously it should have two. Yeah. Next issue we were having, once we got all this bracketry put together right, this piece of material right here, as nice as way I can describe it, didn't fit. This is a notch I just put in the end of it. That was the notch the factory bracket had, so it would swing, it wouldn't contact the alternator. So somebody just spaced, I think that's why they spaced it out, is to try and get it to clear that alternator. Still not the right way. That's what the factory bracket used to have. I don't have one here to verify it, but I know that's what it had. Back in 1998 I was doing these. What was you doing in 1998? Boost leak. Yeah. Not
It's
good.
on the map sensor too. It's pretty important.
This was that really good popular silicone hose that everybody used back in the day. I used to make so many people upset when I used to take it off and put it in a bag and put it in their trunk. They used to say, why didn't that red stuff go back on? It didn't fit the new motor, sorry. Of course it did, I just didn't like it. And that's why you brought it to me, because you like the way I do stuff, so I used to take it off and give you it back. We got clearance now? Tell me it fits like a champ. Make me feel good. Wow.
No, it's still hitting.
Is it really?
It's great. It's still hitting.
I'm going to edit that and change your voice to say, it fits perfect.
It's great.
How much does it hit? Is it just the very end of it? Looks like it's... Might end up having to remake that bracket. You know everything goes real smooth in our videos, and you often say, how come everything goes so smooth for you? Like George over there, he just builds a piece of pipe, it just goes right together. When you're building stuff yourself, we can make it fit. When you're working on somebody else's stuff, so after working on this bracket and shaving the end of this and making everything happy so that this swings, we haven't got another one to measure, but what we've determined is this distance here is too long. So the pulley is rubbing the alternator. Not to mention, where's this pulley? This one right here. This is a bottom pulley, it's a 2-inch. Somebody's using this as a top pulley. We don't have another one, so basically it's too far down. And it's touching the alternator. It needs to be further up, halfway in between. We don't have a lot of room to play with. This is just again, it's that figuring out process. So the issue we're having now, this is the blower pulley, this is the alternator pulley, the double pulley, this is our belt, this is our tensioner bracket. The problem is the pulley that is on this is a 2-inch. It should be a 1.5 inch. So as this pulley is coming in here to tension this belt would obviously go like this to tension it. That pulley would be, you know, in here. That pulley is so large, it's actually contacting the pulley on the alternator. So that pulley is basically, you know, around here. So it's touching this. There isn't a lot of room between these two pulleys, so that's why we are going to shorten this bracket. So what we're going to do is, because this bracket is already made, it's not pretty, and I don't really want to keep charging the guy to build and modify stuff, because if I build another one of these, you know, we're not probably 2 hours in building that. You know, I'm building it by hand. I don't have a CNC. We're going to fill that hole and measure in about 8mm drill and tap. There we go. Shorten that, move that bolt up. That was the original center, that black mark. That's where the new bolt is. Hopefully that is going to work. All right, success. This now spins. You see that? Now all that works. So the belt goes from the alternator to the blower right here. This is the tensioner. I can't get my hands in here to show you what's going on, but this is all nice and smooth. We just need the belt from the crank to the alternator, and then we need to replace this belt. This belt was actually good. The power steering was frayed. Then we can start putting this back together. This bracket right here, this is the biggest issue. All the aftermarket kits out there, this bracket is junk. Yeah, the 1320 kit, I'm not just going to knock it because it's an eBay brand. Their top bracket part isn't too bad. This bottom one that they have, it's the sheet metal one, it just sucks. It doesn't control the alternator, it doesn't hold it in position right. That is the biggest issue. If you can't get a kit with this bracket, I recommend you don't buy it. Every bracket we've dealt with, this 1320 stuff doesn't work. It has belt alignments. It takes 10 times as long to get it right. Once we got all this figured out, the next issue we started it, we had really, really choppy idle and super low vacuum, which tells us the lifters are too tight. And it had a Jrsc helping a glue holding it on. So all of the valves were tight. George went ahead and adjusted them all and put them in spec. It does have aftermarket cams, but it's kind of hard to tell really what it is. Everything's a little bit mismatched. Looks like a Grady timing belt.
This is how glued in it was. It was real stuck.
89. But the first giveaway is these towers right here. They're got the really rough cast. That's the first generation. We just put our bore scope down there, our camera, and found out it is single springs and dual springs, so it's even a stock head. And these cams, we believe, are skunk tube cams, which are not going to be safe to run with factory valve springs. It's going to have to have either B16 cams or GSR cams. Anything more than that, it's going to overrun the spring. And you can see it's been sat for a while because it's got like the black rust dots. So it turns out the compression's close to 8.8 to 1. And it's got a pretty aggressive skunk tube cam, which is why it ran terrible. We started it back up after the valve adjustment, and it's got a really low vacuum, runs pretty terrible. So we're waiting back on the customer. We have some B16A cams, which is going to be the most cost-effective way. It's not going to make a ton of power. These are going to be more reliable with the factory valve train, and of course, he's trying to keep the cost somewhat down because he has other projects going on, so we don't want to blow the budget on this one. It wasn't expected. No dowel or O-ring. There's supposed to be a perfect size dowel and an O-ring in there to supply pressure to these cam caps. Without that, not only are you going to have an oil pressure problem, you're going to have an oil problem in the top of the motor.
It looks just like this new old stock part right here.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. This is like old school stuff. We used to do this so much and we used to run into this. I still don't see any markings on the cams. They're probably glued on beyond belief. Cam gear is super old school. I remember those guys. Well, we don't recognize these cams, but they are marked on the end. They could possibly be reground cams, we don't know, but the gears are okay. We're going to reuse the gears. The keys were in good shape. We're going to put new seals on there. Somebody did use a Jrsc helping of Loctite on them. It took quite a bit to get the bolt out, and it was Loctited around there too, so the gear was a little bit tough getting off. If you hear that, they stick, cause valve train noise. So the replacements right here is going to make a really nice set. All right, so the chems are in, the valve adjustment is adjusted. It sounds much better already.
Oh yeah.
We've also got more vacuum. We were only sitting at about 16 inches of vacuum. Now we got almost 22, which is pretty tight. No check inch lights, right? Apart from it in the S code. Yep. Gonna go ahead and burp it. This motor is fairly new, so we're gonna kind of let it settle in a little bit before we really start hammering on it. Then much better. Idle's better, much smoother. I don't like the red stuff, but I'm not going to dog on it. I guess I'm dogging on it, but I'm not going to take it off because that's the way the customer wanted it. Like I mentioned, I used to take so much of this stuff off back in the day because I just didn't like it, but it is kind of period correct, I guess. I like gas fumes, but not that much. I don't know if it's got to settle in or not. It's got good vacuum, but like I said, it's smoking a little bit. We'll give it a little bit of time, see if we can break it in. Everything else looks good, good vacuum. Motor sounds really good. We went to a 3-inch intake. The intake was on it was like 2.5, and it's a really long, in fact it's there. Superchargers don't like pulling along really long intakes. You know, run the intake all the way down here. There's a lot of pumping losses with the supercharger. Short is better. We have to change one of the wires just so we can get a tack signal. Those wires are super insulated. A super snap-on gun would work. We're on the second time, and today's time is set. It's at 22. Today's time at 22 degrees. Listening for detonation over here. I'm looking for it too. There's the boost line right there. Look how solid that is. 10.3 pounds. Absolutely solid. That's the beauty of these pulleys, and of course the supercharger having a perfect boost graph. Intake air, we had to keep letting it cool down. It would run 180 to 200. I'm going to take Sebastian's spark plug wire back off, put it back on his CRX. It's like a barn find. See those videos where people do the wash first time in like 40 years? This car is almost like that. We're just doing a courtesy wash. The car has been sitting. When he gets it back, obviously we want to make it look nicer than when he dropped it off. Giving it a wash. But not just that. Look at the engine bay. Drastic difference. This is one of those things we're not charging for. We're not putting on a separate bill. This is kind of a thank you for bringing it to LHT, and also for us to feel better about what we're doing. Some people don't get it. Pride in your work goes a long way. Job satisfaction and the fact that somebody else really appreciates what you do goes a long way. So this one is done. It's way ahead of schedule, so it's going to sit in the storage warehouse until he comes to pick it up. What do you think?
I really like it.
It's actually fun, isn't it?
Yeah, the power delivery is nice and smooth. It's fun to drive. It's cool. It makes me feel like I'm back in the 90s. But I want to drive to California? Probably not. Probably not, but definitely Miami.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, a couple of hours up the road. That's a good car. We're calling it a Supermoto Compactor just because there's a little bit more. Honda Pro Jason is going to drive it now. So, switch it on. Don't press that. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I love how he keeps saying don't press it, because he knows what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so is 3 the quickest or slowest?
It's the fastest.
The fastest.
It's like a throttle. You just go as fast as you want to go.
Rear-wheel drive.
Rear-wheel drive. It's got a much bigger brake. Jason's actually filming right now. Surprised his mic is picking up from this distance away. He's way over there. So he is definitely going to be a good gauge what this one is like compared to a factory one. And I'll get him to look at it, and I'll see if I can answer a few questions, because he asked me a few questions.
Way smoother.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool. It feels like something I could actually go to the store and not get beat up when I get there.
Yeah, and you can cruise along at 25 mile an hour like all the time. It doesn't overheat or do anything funny. You could actually cruise places on this one.
How long do you think the batteries will last? Doing about 25?
25 miles.
Oh, you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I had heard online that you took the panels off the moto compacto and put them on another scooter, but that is not the case.
No, it's all Honda.
This is all, I mean, this is like 95 or 90% Honda. You just replace the motor, obviously, to make it rear-wheel drive and make it more powerful. Replace the batteries so they last longer. It made a few little modifications so you could run air in the tires.
To answer a few questions about that motor compactor, a lot of people asked me about it, and I really didn't do a follow-up video. The reason the bag doesn't fold is the wheel is wider. This is the factory setup right here. Our wheel was wider than this, and it wouldn't fit in this groove, so the back wheel wouldn't fold. Everything else remained the same. The front folded, the handlebars went down. We ran all the cables right back through the factory pieces, even used the factory grips, changed the display, and then the other front piece, which I've explained in other videos, we added a little bit of caster, which means we brought the forks forward a little bit. That gives it a little bit more handling, a little bit less sensitive to the steering. I know we're only dealing with a scooter, but the physics still apply when it comes to alignment. That was the only change we did, and obviously a bigger wheel in the front. Other than that, the front remained completely stock. All of this part is the same. We changed this angle a little bit. It has a little bit more caster to try and make it be a bit smoother. If you look at it here, it has a bit more gap here. Bigger wheel with a brake. Has a disc brake on the front.
That's awesome.
Same on the back. We just put a bigger motor and a bigger wheel and tire on the back. So the back doesn't fold up, but the front folds exactly the way it did. That's pretty much it. Bigger battery.
I like how you kept the same style, though.
Yeah, I liked that look.
Yeah, that's cool.
It looked right. Bigger wheels and tires for softer. This is part of the Honda thing that I was telling you about. It has an actual secondary latch. It not only bolts here, it has a latch in here. So if one of those bolts come out, the wheel doesn't fall off. We just kept that. That's the way Honda did it.
Does this do anything?
It doesn't come in because this is too wide. If you see how wide that is still functional just the way it was.
Functional, it just doesn't do what
it just slides and it stops, yeah. That was something just because of the width.
So now the question of the day.
Yeah.
What is this?
That is a rocket.
I know it looks like a rocket. I get that point, but what is it really?
It lights off the charge in here. And it gives it a little bit of thrust. Nothing speed-wise, but it gives it the...
I love it. This is so cool.
But yeah, it's actually a fun little scooter.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy it came out.
You can ride some more if you want. You don't have to be like parking it. Yeah, if you want to ride it, ride them down and I'll meet you back at the shop. We do have a few motor compactos in stock, brand new, sealed in the box. This one is Esther's. This one is mine right here. The one that you saw in the video, the Super Compacto, it is sold because we are going to build another one. These factory do 16 miles an hour. The Super Compacto did 32. The next one we build, we're going to call it a Hyper Compacto. Stay tuned for that. Guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for Jason to come by. Always good to hang out with him. He has a very busy schedule, so for him to make time to come by, it's a big deal. So Jason, thank you. We'll see you on the next video. Don't forget, enjoy your cars.